YOM, what is up, gang? Thank you for checking out Sledgehammer TV tonight. Jeff Hardy was arrested for vehicular manslaughter. Elias was eliminated from the Intercontinental Championship title tournament without even stepping foot in the ring. And there was a lot of women's action tonight, none of it featuring Charlotte Flair. And you know what that made me want to say? Woo! And we are going to talk about all of that and so much more right here and right now. My name is Nick Nightmare, and you are watching the Sledgehammer Wrestling Show's Smackdown review and reaction show. Let's do it.
The Sledgehammer Wrestling Show.
SmackDown opens up tonight with a very interesting segment. You see, Elias was run down by an automobile, and then madness would ensue to begin tonight's episode. And while it was interesting and it was different, and I appreciate the effort in putting some story behind some things, the execution definitely left a lot to be desired. It was as corny as corn can be. It was just really badly acted. A lot of real feigned performances, but that's nitpicking, I guess. I wasn't sitting here chuckling and laugh riots with all the little jokes and AJ Styles not wanting to put his whole Intercontinental Championship dreams on the line by defending his spot rather in the championship tournament against anybody to replace the fallen Elias. Daniel Bryan, of course, the champion of the people, the fighter that he is. He wants the competition. He's ready to fight anybody. There's a whole bunch of people here on SmackDown that want the Intercontinental Championship. None of them are anywhere near as deserving as a guy like a Daniel Bryan or an AJ Styles, and it was just real chaotic. It was funny at times, but it wasn't the greatest way to go about things. If you wanted to ask me, which most of you guys I know do, how would you have gone about it differently than if this was such a cornball skit for you and it was a little drawn out and a little bit too long? There was a much easier way out of this. The WWE put Jeff Hardy in this Intercontinental Championship tournament. I don't know why. It didn't make sense to have him in there. It didn't make sense because at some point he was going to lose or they were going to give him the championship. Obviously, as we get to this point, we now know that neither one of those things are the case. Jeff Hardy was never supposed to be in this tournament. So they had him removed with this interesting story of Elias getting mowed down by an automobile. And then the police come in, and for some reason it is automatically assumed that it's Jeff Hardy because there's beers around. So somebody was intoxicated, and there's open beers, and there's unopened beers, and you got cops smelling beer bottles and saying, oh, this might be the work of Jeff Hardy, and blah, blah, blah. And I don't really care one way or the other. It's kind of cool that they want to play off of real-life scenarios because you want to kind of blur the lines between reality and fiction when it comes to pro wrestling. But when you do it in such a soap opera-like, very unbelievable fashion, it just comes off a little bit as a comedy skit. But I'm appreciative of the effort, and the end result of all of this leaves us to look forward to Daniel Bryan versus AJ Styles in the finals of this championship tournament, which is what we've kind of been hoping and praying for from the beginning. All we need is for them to give them enough time, and this might be one of the best Intercontinental title matches we have ever seen. Probably much better than Edge versus Randy Orton will be. And they are going to show you what the greatest match ever really is going to be. And it is going to be for one of the richest prizes in the game. One of the most beloved titles from anybody that's a fan of the WWE, and that is the Intercontinental Championship. And it was interesting, and I'm not going to throw a poop hammer down on it because, they made the effort, and it was okay. But all they really had to do, if you wanted me to book this thing, to get back to that point after I started rambling again, was you have the match go down. You have Daniel Bryan versus Jeff Hardy happen tonight because you advertised it. You made me excited about it. And if I want to be angry about anything here, it's not what they did. It's that they promised me apple pie and then gave me a turd sandwich that looked like an apple pie. It looked okay, but really deep inside the filling was just a little bit too much to handle, and it didn't taste all that great. But all they had to do was have Sheamus interrupt the match, have Jeff Hardy eliminated from the tournament that way. Daniel Bryan would advance regardless, and then AJ Styles could have fought Elias. But I think the WWE realized nobody wants to see AJ Styles fight Elias. Elias didn't need to be in this thing any more than his first round opponent, Baron Constable Dickhead Corbin, did. And they kind of gave us this lackluster matchup, which was as predictable as anything you could ever imagine. AJ Styles is not going to lose to Elias. So instead of going through with all of these matches that were supposed to happen, they canceled both of those matches, gave us an impromptu battle royal to crown a new challenger just for Daniel Bryan, which ends up being Sheamus. So we end up getting the match we should have gotten in the first place for the semifinals. Daniel Bryan and Sheamus put on a great match. This match with Daniel Bryan for Sheamus was much better than his match last week with Jeff Hardy. I was truly invested. I like the fact that Sheamus wanted to throw in their little past history with one another. We all know the 7-second victory at WrestleMania that Sheamus has over Daniel Bryan. There's a lot of history there, and it was very interesting. I liked this matchup. The action was good. The main event was at least a 3-star wrestling match. Any match with Daniel Bryan seems to be fantastic. He brings out the best in anybody he's in the ring with, from a Drew Gulak to Sheamus and everybody in between. It was a fantastic main event, and Daniel Bryan, rightfully so, gets the win. But here's the twist. It was thanks to Jeff Hardy. Jeff Hardy, who was arrested by the police at the beginning of this show, was released within the span of 2 hours. I don't know where the miracle evidence came from. It was very obvious that Jeff Hardy was being set up by somebody. If they do the predictable thing, it'll end up being Sheamus, who's his current rival. But if the WWE wants to do something cool, Sheamus is a little bit too obvious. You establish the rivalry after Sheamus for Jeff Hardy with the person who ran him down, which is a mystery still. We're all assuming that it's going to be Sheamus, especially with how heavily he was insinuating that it was Jeff Hardy right from the bat as soon as the alcohol was involved into the storyline. But Jeff Hardy came back. He didn't do anything to Sheamus during the match, but he did catch Sheamus's attention, and that's all it took for Sheamus to look away just long enough and then turn around into a running knee from Daniel Bryan. Daniel Bryan advances in the tournament. AJ Styles very willing to accept his bye over Elias and finds himself in the finals, and we're going to get a fantastic match. And that's all we really ask for as wrestling fans, is good wrestling. We got some of that tonight. And we got some of the other stuff as well. There was some other things on the show. Nothing was really tremendously bad. And I think we can credit that to the fact that we didn't see a Charlotte Flair tonight. We didn't have to see a segment with Bray Wyatt and Braun Strowman again. Oddly enough, that was completely missing from tonight's program. And the whole entire show was kind of centered around the Intercontinental Championship and also the women's division, most notably Sasha Banks and Bayley. The split that has once again been canceled has seen the two buffing buddies teaming up now to want to challenge Alexa Bliss and Nikki Cross for the Smackdown or for the WWE Women's Tag Team Championships. And while they did still kind of hint at the fact that there's some dissension between Sasha and Bayley, it's definitely not going to happen until everything somewhat returns back to normal. I think the WWE is just holding back so that they can get some of the reactions that type of a match, that type of rivalry for Sasha and Bayley really does deserve, really will generate due to their long-time history if they do it right. And this is just kind of prolonging things in one of the worst ways, because we don't want to see Alexa Bliss and Nikki Cross versus Sasha Banks and Bayley. We just want to see Sasha Banks versus Bayley for the championship. But let me come at it to you guys this way. What are the odds that the WWE puts the championships on Bayley and Banks as another catalyst to add on top of this journey that we're on for their rivalry? And what I mean by that is you have Bayley being the dual champion, still one-upping Sasha Banks because she's the SmackDown Women's Champion, even though they are, or they will be, the co-champions for the tag team division. And possibly you have Bayley be the cause of them losing those titles, maybe back to Bliss and Cross at some point, which is more heat you could add on to the fire and really start to have these girls combust as a team from the inside. Using the tag team championships in that manner, I would not be opposed to that. They would have to get them from Cross and Bliss, so why not do that? I'm not opposed to it. It's happening next week due to what happened tonight. We had Sasha Banks versus Alexa Bliss, and when you hear that, you immediately think, wow. And probably not sure, honestly, what to think. Because Alexa Bliss, while she has tremendous talent in the ring, can be inconsistent as far as her in-ring stuff goes, and could be a little spotty and a little bit botchy, as anybody could be. Anybody can have a bad night. But Alexa doesn't get in the ring as much as we'd all like to see her get into the ring in a positive way. But tonight was one of those nights where Alexa was just on her game. She did not do anything, to my recollection, that brought down this match. And if you want, you could credit it a little bit to the fact that she was in there with Sasha Banks, who is one of those people that when you put her in the ring, she will just instantly make her opponent better. And she just had a decent match. They had a good match. I'm not going to lie. I tell you guys the truth all the time, and usually we're a little bit hard on Alexa Bliss. That's a terrible way to phrase it, but you know, we're harder on the people that we see the most potential in at the beginning that ended up being a big flop to us. People like Alexa Bliss, women like Nia Jax, who when she showed up I thought was going to be a big addition in a positive way to the WWE roster, but that has been up and down at best. And let's just take a little sidebar since I brought up Nia Jax. There's a lot of people talking about Nia Jax this week because in the match they filmed for Monday Night Raw, spoiler alert, Nia Jax fights Kairi Sane for the 100th time this week. But Kairi Sane apparently gets hurt in this matchup, and everybody's throwing the blame immediately on Nia Jax, and you guys know that I will be the first one to do so if that is the case. But in this scenario, this was an accident. This was mostly Kairi Sane's fault, as she was the one in control of her own body. This wasn't the fault of Nia Jax and her overwhelming strength. She didn't do anything wrong in this scenario, so everybody let's calm it down this time, alright? It's not really that big of a deal. I keep seeing all the videos popping up. Oh, Nia injures again. No, get your facts straight before you start spewing out garbage onto YouTube that could be hurtful and just completely false. Completely false information. You need to know what you guys are talking about a little better than that. But for the most part, the women's action on this night was decent. We had Sonya Deville versus Bam Bam. I don't belong here wrestling this girl, 'cause got nothing to do with me. Bam, bam, bam. Oh wait, it does have something to do with Lacey Evans fighting Sonya Deville. She's blonde. She's blonde. Once again, there's that B word. If you're blonde, you get pushed to the moon and back. And because we don't have a Charlotte on the show, we need Charlotte 2.0. So we will put Lacey Evans there in her stead. Plus, here's Vince in the back. It'll make sense because Sonya said something about Mandy being a blonde. So we can have all the blondes take offense to this and stand up versus Sonya. It'll be great for the women's right. Bam, 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 bam. I can see it right now. The sassy Southern Belle coming out there fighting Sonya Deville. And she should have got her ass whooped. That's what should have happened. Sonya Deville should have whooped that ass. But what happened was the WWE got afraid to give Lacey Evans a loss. The WWE didn't have the balls to put Sonya Deville over here, so they had both of these girls brawling to the outside until you get a double countout. Now, I'm usually okay with those type of bookings, especially at the beginning of rivalries and feuds, as it's a way to extend the story without giving any finality to the matches that you are watching right now. But this has nothing to do with the story that they're telling with Sonya Deville. This should have been a sidestep and a kick in the bucket for her. No disrespect to Lacey Evans, but this was her time to lay down and put somebody else over. She's been in main event after main event after main event. She's been pushed in our faces for the last 2 years. She's had multiple runs at the championship. All she had to do was give back a little bit and put over Sonya Deville. And I know she's not in charge, but somebody in the back should have had this thought. Bruce or Vince or somebody. You're trying to build Sonya. Right now, she's the hot hand. She's delivering excellent promos. She's coming off well in the ring. She's got a good rivalry that's got a lot of heat to it because the people are latching on to the Mandy and Otis thing. And you don't want to have the courage to put a blemish on Lacey Evans' record. Bam, bam. Don't make me lose, Vince. Why? That was the wrong call. And I know a double count out doesn't really hurt anybody in the long run, but this was a moment where you could take a look as a person like me who critiques the show and say, here is a match that's going to show you just how seriously they're taking the push of Sonya Deville that they are currently doing, and it falls flat. Because if they were that serious, Sonya would have won this match, and she would have done so convincingly with no shenanigans and no extra added booking nonsense. But that's not what they decided to do here. And as for the rest of SmackDown, that's pretty much SmackDown in a nutshell. There's a couple of little things. If you want to see some Easter eggs, go back and watch SmackDown. You might have missed the appearance by Jason Jordan. Jason Jordan, unfortunately, had to retire at a young age due to injury, but at least he's got a job in the back, and he was back there in the same locker room at the same time as Chad Gable, and they didn't even look at each other, and I thought that was kind of weird, and I just figured, hey, if I was in the back with my buddy, I'm at least going to be near him, right? Hey, he's my best friend, whatever, I don't know, that's just me being silly, but anyway, it was an interesting episode from start to finish. It wasn't the worst episode of Suckdown we have seen this year. In fact, it might have been one of their better episodes of the entire year. And it's not just because there was no Charlotte. It's because they took steps to correct some of the things that they did wrong last week. And if there's anything really wrong with tonight's SmackDown, is it just shows you that from week to week they're still trying to figure shit out, because everything they had planned for this tournament went completely out the window, and I have no idea what the motivation was behind it, other than they realized that they screwed up here. We messed up with the brackets, we messed up with the participants, so we gotta just scrap this whole thing. We'll have a battle royal to make a new person, and in that battle royal, we'll have a match set up for later in the evening. As Chad Gable found himself towards the end of this battle royal eliminated by Cesaro who unfairly eliminated him because he had been eliminated much earlier, came back in to eliminate Chad Gable, as we've seen happen in many Royal Rumbles. Chad Gable made this a sticking point. He was cheated. He was never eliminated because Cesaro wasn't part of the match anymore. The same old song and dance you get when this type of a storyline goes down, which set up Cesaro versus Chad Gable, which was an excellent match. This was a fun match. I like seeing Cesaro in the ring with somebody that can go. And Chad Gable can definitely go. It was a great singles match. It was a nice change of pace in between what was going on. And the only thing I really didn't appreciate for the most part of this show was the fact that they had to have a moment of bliss. Now, it was unnecessary. Once again, they very easily could have just started the show announcing we are going to have Sasha Banks versus Alexa Bliss without a moment of bliss and the New Day and the tag team summit that was completely unnecessary to just have a bunch of silly jokes and to have Alexa Bliss stir the pot between Sasha and Bayley, which is a pot that's already been stirred a million times, and then it cools back down and stops swirling, and then we twirl it up again, and then it calms down and the whirlpool stops, and then we keep swirling it up again until the Boston connection eventually will be no more. But Shorty G defeated Cesaro. The Otis and Mandy tribute to Fast Times at Ridgemont High. This I thought was fantastic. It was a little uncomfortable, right? Did you guys feel a little sexual? Did you get a little tingle in your innards? Did you feel the love that was happening on the screen? Now, if you're around my age, which is 40 something, and you watched this, you really did appreciate this because you know and you grew up with Fast Times at Ridgemont High, which is a fantastic 80s movie, classic, cult classic, real sign of the times type movie, really captured what was going on back in those days, and it was a great tribute to the pool scene. Great. One of the first scenes I remember really catching my attention as far as the female form is concerned, as that beautiful Phoebe Cates came up from the pool and she did the whole dripping water bit, and it was all really just a fantasy in the guy's head. They did the whole thing tonight with Otis and Mandy, but they flipped the script, and instead of the sexual being of the sexual subject of the dream being the female, it was of course Otis, and Mandy was getting carried away in her head, and there was a lot of making out going on with Mandy. You know, a lot of tongue action, a lot of make out action going on. But you know what I gotta say? Good for you, Otis. Good for you, bro. Even if, you know, it's just a scripted television show, you have got the best angle of everybody because you get to make out with this gorgeous girl, and it's great. Great for you. Good for you. Good for all the big men in the world that can look up to Otis and be like, wow, if Otis can be with a hot chick like Mandy, maybe I can get with a hot chick one day. But to all those guys, I also want to tell you guys to get a salad once in a while, you know, because it feels good to make yourself healthy. You don't have to, you know, be a tiny little stick guy, but, you know, just eat a salad once in a while. It's good for your insides. Keeps you clean. And that, for the most part, was SmackDown. And the biggest news coming out of this whole thing is not Jeff Hardy's arrest and return before the end of the show. It is not anything that happened in the women's division. It is by far the announcement that Matt Riddle is coming to SmackDown. The recently fired Kurt Angle came back to SmackDown tonight to make this announcement because he was the referee in Matt Riddle's terrific final match in NXT with Tim Thatcher, which was unexpectedly awesome, if you ask me. And if you're a fan of this show, and you've been a fan for at least a year or more, you know that when Riddle came aboard, I was not one of those people that was immediately just championing the cause of bring the bro to the main roster, bro. It's going to be awesome, bro. And I just didn't see what the hubbub and what all the hype was all about. But his time in NXT has shown me his value, has shown me his worth, has shown me how good he is. And the guy's loudmouth, he's a little braggadocious, he doesn't wrestle with shoes, and he's got an RVD vibe. And you know what? Maybe that's the kind of vibe we need right now, is somebody like RVD back in the world of professional wrestling, just taking everything really chill and going out there and kicking ass when he needs to and doing it in a very impressive way. I feel like Matt Riddle is almost a surefire hit. Like, he's going to come on to SmackDown, which is a Fox show, which is this real big sports-oriented network. And if he is not the biggest thing on the Blue brand by this time next year, then there really is no hope for the WWE as a company. They have the chance right here to make the next biggest star they've ever had. He's already got a connection to the crowd. He's gotten over very well. I love all of the work he did with Pete Dunne as the NXT Tag Team Champions. I think it was good stuff, and I think it will be great for the main roster if they do it right. But look at me when I'm talking to you guys, all right? We've been here before. We've said this before. We've said this about guys like Andrade. We've said this about guys like Shinsuke. We've said this about guys like Finn Balor and countless other names that have been taken from NXT and then brought to the main roster to much fanfare, only to fizzle out and burn away into dust and be kicked out the door or sent back to NXT. So I don't want to get my hopes up too high. But if SmackDown fails with Matt Riddle, then I don't think it'll ever right the ship ever. And the one interesting thing about Matt Riddle going to SmackDown is the fact that this move happened because of his ongoing real-life beef with the Beast, Brock Lesnar. Brock Lesnar hates Matt Riddle. Matt Riddle keeps calling the Beast out and talking shit about Brock at every chance he gets. Brock Lesnar went out of his way to find Matt Riddle at the Royal Rumble last year and tell him to keep his name out of his mouth because he's never going to work with Matt Riddle. So it's interesting to me that they put him on SmackDown, which is way far away from the Beast Brock Lesnar. And I think that was done with intent to keep the Beast happy, and we'll get Matt Riddle going over here, and maybe at some point we will get that confrontation, because you just can never say never in the world of pro wrestling. This was SmackDown tonight. The review here tonight was a little bit all over the place, but that's a good thing. You know why? Because that means I enjoyed myself. And I enjoyed myself tonight for multiple reasons. No Charlotte Flair. No Miz and Morrison. No Strowman and Fiend. We did have to suffer through some Baron Corbin and stuff and a little bit of the nonsense of the Intercontinental Battle Royal or whatever. But it was an entertaining show for the most part. Good wrestling matches, even for the girls. Look at that. Look at that. And that doesn't happen all the time. So I appreciate tonight's 2-hour show. Next week, probably not going to fare so well, because we are going to have the return of The Miz and John Morrison with a warning for Braun Strowman. I'm already disinterested. Then we are going to have the Women's Tag Team Championship matchup, Alexa Bliss and Nikki Cross versus Sasha Banks and Bayley. It'll be interesting to see if they pull the trigger then and there and put the belts on the bus and connection. But we'll have to wait for the next 7 days to find out. Thank you guys all so much for being here with me once again as we brought the hammer down on SmackDown like no one else. We didn't bring up the poop hammer screen tonight because it wasn't really anything that pissed me off all that much. It was a decent episode. I hope that we can get more shows like this. Just pull back a little bit on some of the drama and some of the campiness of some of the stuff that you guys are writing. It was a very talk-heavy show, but the segments were entertaining. Even the bald guy that was trying to explain the situation to everybody at the beginning, it was fine. It was fine. It definitely wasn't the best show we've ever seen. We are not back on track or anything like that, but this was an entertaining show, and that's all we really asked for. So I guess they did a good job. They did a good job tonight. So you guys did a good job by sitting here with me, sitting here for 30 minutes and talking about SmackDown Live. Don't forget, or Friday Night SmackDown. Call it what you want. You just tonight can't call it Suckdown because it really wasn't that bad. Let me know what you think down in the comments section below, and consider giving us a subscribe as we are almost at that 2.5K mark. The influx of subscribers over the course of the weekend is much appreciated. I don't know where it came from. I don't know why it happened, but I want to welcome all the new Sledgeheads to the channel. Thank you guys for being here with me, and to anyone who's not already a member, hit that subscribe button right now so that you don't miss a thing as we continue to bring the hammer down on the world of professional wrestling one show at a time, and nobody does it the way we do. And I want to thank each and every one of you who continue to give your love and support to this channel, and you can do even a better job of that by smashing that like button if you enjoyed today's show. If I made you laugh, if I made you cry, if I made you understand why SmackDown tonight wasn't a suckdown, hit that thumbs up. And if you have anybody that you need to share this with, then feel free to do that as well. Share this video with each and every one of your wrestling buddies all over the wrestling world, especially if you want them to be surprised to the fact that I actually was okay with an episode of SmackDown. You can mark this down because it might be the last time it happens this year. It might be the first time and the very last. My name is Nick Nightmare. This is the team. Thor the Sledgehammer, the official Sledgehammer of the Sledgehammer Wrestling Show. His tag team partner, the World Heavyweight Champion of all the microphones in all the world, Mr. Blue the Snowball, the most important member of the team as always. Each and every one of you. That, my friends, is going to do it. We are out of here, and we will see you next time right here on your new favorite wrestling show, the Sledgehammer Wrestling Show, only on Sledgehammer TV, right here on YouTube.com. Bam, bam.